She hadn't spoken to her parents in 2 decades. Not since the night they slammed the door in her face, told her she was dead to them, and left her crying on the front porch with a baby growing inside her. Now, 20 years later, she was standing at their funeral with a secret they never saw coming. Before we continue, please write in the comments which country you're watching this video from. And do not forget to subscribe for more such stories. Enjoy the story. Freya Carter was 17 when everything in her life collapsed. It was a cold February night in 2005, the kind of night where the wind felt like it could slice through your skin. Snow was falling softly outside her bedroom window as she packed a small duffel bag, no idea where she was going. Just that she couldn't stay here. Her parents, Elaine and Richard, were downstairs yelling. Not at each other. At her, because Freya was pregnant, the moment they found the test crumpled in her trash bin. Pink lines clear as day, everything turned to fire. Her mother's voice went from shock to fury. Her father, normally calm and cold, turned red with rage. You've ruined your life, Elaine had spat, shaking. Do you know what people will say? What they'll think about us? Her father didn't say much, just stood still, jaw clenched, watching her like she was something shameful, like a stain that wouldn't wash out. Then he said the words that would stick with her forever. You made your choice. Now live with it, but not under my roof. That was it. No second chances. No comfort. No pause to ask her what she needed. If she was scared, if she even had somewhere to go, they didn't care. Freya had never felt more alone in her life. One moment, she was their daughter, the quiet girl who got straight A's and played piano at church. The next, she was a disgrace. She zipped up her bag with shaking hands, grabbed her coat, walked out the front door. Her mother didn't follow. Her father didn't say goodbye. She took one last look at the house she'd grown up in, the porch light still on, like it always was. And then she stepped into the cold, her boots crunching against the ice-crusted sidewalk. Every step away from that house felt like walking off the edge of a cliff. She had no plan, no money, no place to go. Just a baby inside her, and a deep, burning ache that she wasn't sure would ever go away. She crashed that night on a friend's couch. The friend's mama, a kind woman with too many kids of her own, let her stay for a week. Then 2. Then gently suggested it was time Freya found something more stable. But what was stable when you were 17? Pregnant and alone? She applied for every job she could think of, waitressing, cleaning, stocking shelves. Nobody wanted to hire a teen with a swollen belly and no experience. Nobody, except a tiny diner off Route 14 where the manager, a tired woman in her 60s, handed her an apron and said, "If you can work hard, you can stay." Freya worked double shifts, slept in a borrowed cot in the back, and saved every cent. She hid her tears during bathroom breaks and whispered goodnight to her belly when the world went quiet. And still no call from her parents, no letters, no birthday cards, not even a text to ask if she was okay. She stopped waiting after a while, stopped hoping they'd come around, because the truth was they didn't want her back, not her. Not her baby. And so, at 18, Freya gave birth to a daughter in a hospital room lit by flickering fluorescent lights, and held her alone. No father, no family, just her and this tiny, perfect human who didn't care that the world had turned its back on them. Freya named her Isla and swore, then and there, that her daughter would never feel unwanted, never be thrown away, never be left alone. Freya didn't have a roadmap. Just a baby in one arm and a future she had to build from scratch. The back room of the diner became her world. A cot by the cleaning supplies, a drawer filled with diapers and formula samples, a tiny radio that played soft jazz at night when she couldn't sleep. Most mornings she opened the place before the sun came up, Isla strapped to her chest in a second-hand carrier. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't easy. But it was theirs. Some customers stared, others offered kind smiles. One regular, a retired teacher named Marla, left diapers on the table after her coffee. Another, a truck driver, who passed through every few days, gave her a $20 tip with a simple, "For the kid." Those little kindnesses kept her going, like breadcrumbs leading her through the dark. And through it all, Freya never once heard from her parents. Not when Isla had her first cold. Not when Freya got food poisoning and had to drag herself through a shift anyway, praying she wouldn't faint on the floor. Not even when she turned 21 and spent the day alone in the diner, cutting herself a slice of leftover pie. Their silence was louder than any words. They could have said, years passed, she scraped together enough money to move into a tiny apartment over a hardware store. The floor creaked when she walked, and the heat barely worked in winter, but it had a kitchen, a bathtub, and a door she could lock. Isla grew fast, bright-eyed, curious, fearless. She had Freya's dark hair and Owen's smile, but Owen, he'd vanished long before Isla was born. No phone calls, no child support, just a ghost Freya didn't have the energy to chase. She didn't tell Isla much about him. Not because she was bitter, but because she didn't want her daughter to wait on someone who never planned to return. Instead, she focused on the life in front of them. Freya got her GED, took online classes at night when Isla was asleep. Bit by bit, she built something real, a new future carved out of second chances and late-night determination. She still worked at the diner, but now she managed the place, run the schedule, handled the inventory. She even started a little savings account for Isla's college fund, just a few dollars at first, but it was something. And Isla? She thrived. She was reading chapter books by age 6. Drawing comic strips by 8, winning spelling bees by 10. Every time she smiled, Freya's chest filled with a quiet kind of pride. They didn't have much, but they had each other, and that was enough. Almost. Because sometimes, when the nights stretched long and Isla was tucked in bed, Freya still thought about the family she'd lost. She'd wonder if her mother ever regretted what she said, if her father ever looked back and wished he'd opened the door. She didn't want their approval anymore. Not really. But some wounds don't close cleanly, and then, one rainy Thursday morning 19 years after they kicked her out, Freya got a call. It was a number she didn't recognize. She almost let it go to voicemail, but something made her pick up. "Is this Freya Carter?" A woman's voice asked, crisp and professional. "Yes," she answered cautiously. "I'm calling on behalf of Rosewood and Finch Funeral Home. I'm sorry to inform you. Your parents, Elaine and Richard Carter, passed away last week in a car accident." Freya blinked, stunned. The woman's voice kept going, but the words blurred together. Next of kin. Joint memorial service. Estate matters. She hung up, heart pounding. They were gone. No last words. No apologies. No final message to the daughter they abandoned. And yet, they'd listed her as next of kin. Why? She hadn't heard from them in 20 years. Not a card, not a call. But now, they wanted her to come? Freya stared out the window, rain streaking down the glass. Isla was in school. The apartment was quiet, and in that silence, a storm was building, because part of her wanted to ignore the whole thing, and part of her needed to know why they waited. Until death to reach for her, Freya hadn't been back to her hometown in nearly 20 years. Not since the night she left with nothing but a duffel bag, a broken heart, and a baby on the way. Now, the town looked smaller, the streets quieter, the trees thinner, older, but the memories? They were still sharp, still waiting for her around. Every corner, she pulled into the parking lot of St. Luke's Chapel just before noon. The sky was overcast, fitting. Isla sat in the passenger seat. Now 17, almost the same age Freya had been when everything changed. She wore a black sweater and held Freya's hand as they stared at the old brick church. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Isla asked softly. Freya nodded, but her chest felt tight. "I don't know, but I have to." She stepped out of the car. Her heels crunched on the gravel. Inside, the service had already started. A small crowd of distant relatives, churchgoers, and old neighbors filled the pews, familiar faces. But no one turned to acknowledge her. She sat near the back, Isla close. Beside her. At the front of the church, 2 framed portraits rested on easels. Elaine and Richard Carter, posed and smiling like they had never hurt anyone. The pastor spoke about community, legacy, and faith. About a devoted couple who raised a daughter, not who abandoned her. No one mentioned Freya. No one even looked her way. It was like she was a ghost. The final hymn played. The organ swelled, And then it was over. Asterisk chairs scraped the floor. Mourners murmured quietly. Some cried. Some left in silence. Freya stayed seated, staring at the caskets. Not because she grieved them, but because something felt unfinished. Then she noticed her Aunt Margaret walking toward her. Sharp eyes, crisp black coat, silver hair pinned tight. Freya, she said, pausing by the pew. You came? Freya stood. I didn't come for them. I came for closure. Margaret's mouth twitched into something that wasn't quite a smile. They always wondered if you'd show up one day. You know, before everything. They had 20 years, Freya said flatly. They never reached out. Margaret hesitated, then lowered her voice. Your father wasn't an easy man. He kept a lot locked up. But after your mother got sick, he started going through old things, boxes, journals. He told me he'd written you letters, dozens of them. Freya blinked. Letters? Margaret nodded. He never sent them. Said he didn't think you'd want to hear from him. The words hit like a wave all this time. Letters that he never sent. Where are they? Freya asked, her voice tense. Margaret glanced around, then leaned in. There's a safety deposit box. The lawyer handling their estate will give you the key. Freya's mind raced. Why would her father write her letters and then hide them? Why wait until after death to let them be found? Before she could say more, Isla tugged gently at her sleeve. Mom, Freya turned. Isla was staring at a man across the room, maybe early 40s, tall, thinning hair. He was standing alone, watching them. Who's that? Freya whispered. I don't know, Isla said. But he's been staring at you since we walked in. The man noticed them looking. He turned abruptly and left through a side door. Freya felt a chill run down her spine. Something was happening. Something bigger than just grief. And she was only just starting to see the edges of it. Back at the car, she clutched the small envelope Margaret had slipped her. Inside was the key to the letters. To the past to something she wasn't sure she was ready to read, but she would. She had to. The bank was quiet. Too quiet. Freya sat across from the clerk at Rosewood Savings, her fingers tight around the little silver key. Box 143, she said. The clerk nodded, led her into a back room lined with rows of metal doors. Each one locked and silent. Box 143 was low to the ground, small, unassuming, but Freya's heart pounded as the clerk slid the key in and turned it with a soft click. Inside was a single bundle, thick, worn envelopes tied together with a thin, fraying ribbon. Her name was written across the top envelope in her father's sharp, familiar handwriting, just Freya. No date, no return address? Just her name. The clerk stepped back. Take all the time you need. Freya nodded, barely hearing him. She sat down in the small reading room, Isla beside her. The weight of the letters felt heavier than it should have. She untied the ribbon slowly, as if pulling it too fast might cause everything to unravel. She opened the top envelope. Freya, I know you'll probably never read this, but I need to write it anyway. His words hit like cold rain. Clear, controlled, but there was something under them. Regret. The night you left, I didn't sleep, not for days. Your mother cried until her voice went raw. But I stayed. Silent. I told myself you'd made your choice. That if I didn't act like it mattered, it wouldn't hurt so much. Freya swallowed hard. Her throat burned. Isla sat still, eyes scanning her mother's face. The truth is, I was afraid. Not of what the neighbors would say, but of what it meant that I'd failed you. Failed as a father. That I didn't raise a daughter who could come to me when she was scared. That I didn't give you a home safe enough to stay in. Freya's hands trembled. She opened the next letter. And then the next. Some were just a few lines. Others, pages. Long. He'd written on birthdays, on Christmases. On the day Isla would have started kindergarten, he'd written things he never dared say aloud. I drove by the diner once. Saw you through the window. You were working the counter, hair tied. Back, smiling at some kid who spilled his soda. I almost came in, but I didn't. I told myself it was better that way. You looked strong. Each letter peeled back another layer of the man she thought she knew. He He wasn't the stone wall she remembered. He was broken like her. Just better at hiding it. At the bottom of the bundle, one final letter stood out. It wasn't addressed to her. It was addressed to Isla. Freya hesitated. Her hands went still. Isla looked at her. Can I read it? Freya nodded. Isla opened the envelope. Her eyes moved slowly, her lips pressing into a thin line. Dear Isla, I don't know you, and that's my greatest failure. But I've seen you from a distance, and what I've seen is extraordinary. You carry your mother's fire, and that's no small gift. I didn't deserve to know you, but I hope one day you'll understand that I loved you from afar. I just didn't know how to be the man you both needed. When Isla finished, her hands were shaking. He watched us, she said quietly. All this time? Freya nodded. Looks like it. She didn't know what hurt more, the years of silence or the truth that her father had cared. And just from a distance, but before she could say anything else, her phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. It read, You don't know the full story. Meet me, tomorrow, 5 p.m., the diner. No name, no number to call back. Freya's heart jumped. What is it? Isla asked. Freya stared at the screen. I think someone doesn't want the past to stay buried? The diner looked almost exactly the same cracked red booths, same humming freezer, same scent of old grease and burnt toast. Freya sat in the back, facing the door, heart pounding against her ribs like it wanted to get out first. She'd gotten the message the night before. No name, no details, just a time, a place, a promise that she didn't know everything, and after 20 years of silence, of guessing and grieving and burying the past, she was ready to know. The bell over the door jingled. A man stepped in, early 40s, same one Isla had seen at the funeral. He looked nervous, jacket damp from the rain. Hands shoved deep in his pockets, Freya stood slowly. You sent the message. He nodded. My name's James. I used to work with your father. Long time ago, we were in the same unit. Army Reserves. Freya narrowed her eyes. You weren't at the funeral for them. You were there for me. James hesitated, then slid into the booth across from her. Yeah, I was. He looked down at his hands, took a breath, then said something that made Freya's blood run cold. Your father didn't want to kick you out. That night. He was protecting you. Freya stared. Protecting me? He threw me out. Told me to never come back. James nodded slowly. I know. And I'm not here to defend what he did, but there's more. Things you never knew. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small folder, yellowed, worn. He slid it across the table. After he died, I went through some of his personal files, found this, and I knew you had a right to see it. Freya opened the folder. Inside were copies of old documents, letters, reports, a grainy photograph, and there it was, her father's name. And beneath it, another name. One she hadn't heard in nearly 2 decades. Owen Keller, Isla's father. The photo was of Owen and Richard, standing side by side, army fatigues. Laughter frozen in time. Freya looked up, confused. Owen never served. He never even talked about *. James interrupted gently. Owen was your father's recruit. A kid he brought in, trained, mentored, protected, but after his discharge, things changed. Freya's stomach turned. James continued. Your dad found out Owen had been involved in something bad. Something dangerous. Not just cheating on you, not just leaving. He got caught up in a crowd that made money doing ugly things. Your father tried to stop him. Warn you, but Owen threatened him. Freya's breath caught. Threatened him? No, James said. He threatened you, and the baby. Silence. I don't believe you, Freya whispered. But her hands were shaking. James looked at her, eyes steady. Your dad said if Owen ever came near you again, he'd take the fall. He told Owen he'd kick you out. Make it look real. That if he stayed away, he could walk. But if he didn't, your father would ruin him. Freya's heart felt like it was folding in on itself. That night, she whispered, he wasn't trying to hurt me. He was pushing me away. To keep me safe. James nodded. He knew. You'd never believe him if he told you. And he couldn't risk you staying, not if Owen was still watching. Freya leaned back, the weight of 2 decades pressing into her chest. Her whole life shaped by a lie made to protect her. He never got the chance to fix it, James said quietly. But he never stopped watching over you. Every year he sent money to the diner anonymously. For you, for Isla, asked me to make sure you were okay. Tears welled in Freya's eyes, not from pain, but from the truth. From finally understanding the man she had spent so long hating, he hadn't failed her. He'd saved her. She sat in silence. For a long time, watching the rain slide down the diner window. Isla was safe, grown, smart, full of light. And now, finally, Freya felt light too. She looked at James. Thank you for telling me, he nodded once. He'd be proud of you, Freya, of both of you. She smiled, soft and sad. He always was. I just didn't know it. Some truths come too late. Some wounds never stop aching. But sometimes when the rain lifts and the past stops chasing you, find peace in the places you least expect, and forgiveness in the people you thought were lost forever.